You've felt it before, right? That quiet, creeping awareness of our own mortality. Well, today, we're going to take that feeling apart. We're going to explore the architecture of existential dread and really dig into that fundamental question. Why are we so afraid of the end?
Let's just dive right in. You know exactly the feeling I'm talking about. It's that quiet moment, maybe late at night, when the thought just pops into your head. That little shiver you get when you really, truly consider your own eventual end. It's a universal human experience for sure. But what is it that makes it so uniquely terrifying?
The answer, as you've probably guessed, is not simple at all. It's more like this complex tapestry woven together from threads of our basic biology, the weird quirks of our minds, and literally thousands of years of philosophy. So in this explainer, we're going to pull on each of those threads and see what we can unravel about this ultimate unknown.
Okay, first, let's go way back to the absolute beginning, to our brain's ancient survival code. You could almost call it the primordial panic.
See, at the most basic level, this fear makes perfect sense. Our brains are these incredibly sophisticated survival machines, right? They've been honed by millions of years of evolution to do one thing above everything else: keep us going. So anything that threatens that, a predator, a poison, a long fall, it all triggers this primal alarm system. And death? Well, death is the ultimate threat. It's the final shutdown. So of course, our biology just rebels against it.
But here's what makes us humans a little different. We don't just react to immediate threats. No, we are consciously aware that one day we will die. And that awareness gives rise to this really fascinating psychological idea called terror management theory. The core of it is that knowing we're going to die creates this deep underlying potential for terror, and a huge amount of what we do, how we act, and what we build is secretly driven by our attempts to manage that very terror.
So, how do we manage this terror? Well, we build what psychologists call cultural buffers. I mean, think about it. Why do we build massive monuments that we hope will stand for centuries? Why do we create art, or write books, or put our names on buildings? It's all part of this quest for a kind of symbolic immortality. Even our strongest group identities, our nationalities, our religions, they help soothe that dread by making us feel like we're part of something bigger, something that will outlast our own individual lives.
Okay, so that's the primal brain, but the fear? It doesn't just stop there. Next, we have to enter the cognitive labyrinth of our conscious mind, a place where our own thoughts can become these traps that actually make the dread even worse.
Now, we need to make a really key distinction here. Most of us think we're afraid of the process of dying. The pain, the loss. And we are. That's real. But psychologists point to something way deeper: annihilation anxiety. This isn't the fear of dying. It is the terror of non-existence. It's that chilling, mind-bending inability to even conceive of a world without our own consciousness in it. It's the fear of the void itself.
And because the thought of just not being is so deeply uncomfortable, our minds perform these incredible mental gymnastics to avoid it. It's a classic case of cognitive dissonance. We're holding two conflicting ideas at the same time. I know I'm going to die, and I desperately want to live forever. So to reduce that mental tension, we just push the thought away. We distract ourselves, we deny it. We do pretty much anything to keep our psychological comfort and our sense of meaning intact.
Of course, this internal struggle is nothing new. For millennia, humanity has been wrestling with the void, looking everywhere for answers, especially in philosophy.
I mean, thinkers throughout history have offered all these different ways to frame the problem. The ancient Greeks, people like Plato, they saw it as a fear of the great unknown. Then later, the philosopher Epicurus tried to just dismantle the fear with pure logic. And much more recently, the existentialists came along and argued that, hey, we have no choice but to confront the absurdity of our situation head-on.
Let's take Epicurus for a second. His logic was so simple, so elegant. He said, when we are, death is not. When death is, we are not. What he means is, you will never actually experience being dead. So, why waste your precious life fearing a state that you can never actually be in?
It's a brilliant piece of logic, right? So why doesn't it work for most of us? Why can't we just reason our way out of this fear? Well, because, as we've already seen, this fear isn't just logical. It's emotional. It's biological. It is wired deep, deep inside of us. And because logic alone just isn't enough, cultures have developed these vast, elaborate systems to help us cope. Some, they seek transcendence through beliefs in an afterlife or reincarnation. Others, especially in our modern scientific age, they kind of lean into a form of technological denial, chasing physical immortality through ideas like transhumanism. And now, a growing movement is trying a third way, radical acceptance.
Which brings us to our final section. If we can't escape death, and we can't really truly ignore it, maybe the only option left is to embrace it, to learn how to live with the shadow.
So what does that actually look like? Well, it can start by simply acknowledging our own finitude, not as some terrifying void, but just as a simple fact of life. From there, things like mindfulness can really help ground us in the present moment, which, let's be honest, is the only moment we ever truly have. And finally, it means rethinking what legacy is, not giant monuments of stone, but the connections we build and the impact we have on the people right here, right now.
And hey, this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. There are contemporary movements like death positivity that are actively trying to change this whole conversation. By encouraging us to talk openly about death and to rethink how we care for the dying, the hope is that we can strip away some of that cultural fear and replace it with acceptance and maybe even a sense of peace.
So let's end with one last thought. We've explored the biology, the psychology, the philosophy behind this deep human fear. But maybe we've been looking at it all wrong. What if the shadow of death isn't a curse? What if it's the very thing that gives light and urgency and meaning to our finite, precious time here? Now that's something to think about. Thanks for joining me.